How uliniwacha mi bila fahamu kuwa ni yako zamu, angalau ungeniambia eti unakam nitulize hamu wangu wa dhati. Hey, tama zangu zimenikwamia mikononi, labda huu ni mwisho wa dunia. Safiri salama, msalimu Maulana, tutaonana baadaye. Safiri salama, msalimu Maulana, tutaonana baadaye. Tutaonana baadaye, mpendwa, ndio. Tutaonana baadaye.
All right.
Well, my brother.
Yeah. So
we should do this show.
Yeah, we are live now. So maybe I'll start this show now. So just a minute. Maybe first I want to introduce tonight. So tonight we are having Levi Kones. So Levi Kones will be talking about the journey with cancer and battle with cancer, which he gracefully won. And also maybe before we start, I want to pass my condolences to the family and friends of Dr. Doreen Adisa, who passed on because of COVID-19. So I want to say our prayers and thoughts with Daktari's family. All right, so asante sana. So let's start this. So if you want to join this conversation tonight, it's very easy to join. Levi will be sharing about his experience in the healthcare, especially in treatment of cancer. And then you can actually share to ask him any question, or you can come and also share your perspective. So Levi, maybe before anything else, I want to give you some time. You introduce about yourself. Also, you can be able to share this within your wall so that maybe your also friends can follow it up. So maybe first you can introduce yourself and then we go to this conversation. Levi?
Right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Levi Kones. I am a journalist by profession. Let me first apologize for the dark lighting. I wasn't really exactly aware that this was supposed to be that bright tonight, so you kind of caught me a bit flat-footed. But I'm glad I'm here, and thank you, Patrick, for hosting me. I'm a journalist, I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I am a cancer survivor.
Great, fantastic. So maybe I'll want Levi, maybe you share maybe a snippet of actually your experience. Maybe I'll want to understand your journey, but we will start maybe step by step. Maybe first you can tell us when and how did you get diagnosed with cancer? Or how did you come to know that actually you have this disease?
Well, the problem started about some 3 or so years ago, and initially what happened was about 2017 there. I started having stomach ailments, frequent stomach ailments. I was, at first it seemed like I was treated for H. pylori, then I was treated for food poisoning, then I was treated for acidity in the stomach, just a number of things before finally things came to a head, and in 2018 I started having dizzy spells. So I began to have weakness in the body. Sometimes I would be walking on the streets and I would feel like I want to fall. And after a while, my wife had kept saying, you need to go and see a doctor and get to get some help for what's happening to you. And I kept postponing it until eventually I suffered a semi-collapse, because it wasn't really one. I was at work one day and I was so weak, I was sleeping the entire time on the chair. And that was in March of 2018. And I thought I was so sick. So I called my wife, and I told her I'm going to the hospital. She told me I'll meet you there. And it was on a Monday evening, and we went there right after my work at about 7:30 p.m.
Yeah.
We go to the hospital. They did a whole bunch of tests, and one of the things they found out pretty quickly was that I was having low HB. It was as low as 4.7, and which was really surprising because the normal HB is about for a man about 14 to 15, which meant that I was having some blood loss. So they began the process of finding out what was causing the blood loss. So they did an endoscopy, then they did a colonoscopy, they did a scan of the stomach, a whole bunch of myriad of tests before eventually we found out that there was a tumor.
Yeah.
And during that time, I had been getting blood transfusions as well, back and forth. And when they found out that I had a tumor, I ended up having to receive the transfusions, as well as now they took the tumor for a piece of it for biopsy, and then later on found out that I had cancer.
Oh, amazing. So, Levi, maybe putting into perspective, especially maybe your treatment experience, maybe locally and internationally. Can you tell us how that journey was?
It was a very interesting journey because first I started here. I went for a lot of my first after, of course, they found out the tumor. The prognosis was that it needed to be removed and I needed to have an operation as soon as possible. So we went to Mata for the same, and they did an operation, and after that I had to undergo 12 sessions of chemo. And the first 2 I did them at the Mata Hospital, and the remaining 10 I did them at Nairobi Hospital. So mine was a fully local treatment, and it was very interesting in many ways. One, I had not known the cost of cancer treatment in Kenya. 2, I had not known that it was going to be such a heavy and burdening financial and also emotional task to journey that particular journey.
Yeah. All right. Interesting. So, Levi, everyone who maybe gets diagnosed with cancer, the first thing that comes to their mind is maybe how their death will look like. Maybe can you tell us, did that thought come to your mind?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. The doctor who told me, the doctor who first gave me the prognosis was very kind. He said that I stood, he put it like a 40% chance because it was stage 3 and pretty serious, and the tumor had straddled both the walls in the lining of my stomach. So he didn't give me a very good a prognosis, and I didn't really feel comfortable with him. In fact, I ended up having to change doctors just because of that. But I do remember the first night I went home, I thought about death. But I figured if I wondered whether this was the end, and then I wondered if it was the end, what did I need to do about it? And I realized that members were thinking the same. They were worried. People around me were so worried. Some of them would not tell me, but you can see it in their faces. It sounded like it was very much a death sentence. Yes.
Right. So, is it the same? Maybe because you interact maybe with patients who go through the same and the kind of pain and maybe suffering that they pass through, especially mental. I want to know: is this something that maybe most of the patients pass through?
It's definitely, because it's put under the word terminal illness. It would be strange to find a patient who would not think at some point and ask themselves whether they would make it. You do think about it, yes. After a while, you don't think about it so much, especially when you decide you want to fight. But initially, absolutely, I think it passes through everyone's mind.
Wow. So how do you manage that pain and that maybe those thoughts, especially yourself? How do you manage them?
Well, for me, once I came to the realization that it could be possible that this had come to finish me. And I then decided that I was going to try and fight it. I put all my energy on focusing on the fight. After all, I reason this way, every day we wake up in the morning and we have no guarantees that we'll come back home. Yeah. You could die from an accident, you could be hit by lightning, you could, just collapse and go. As in, I figured that my diagnosis of cancer did not make me more prone to death than anybody else. The chances of dying were still the same as anybody else out there. So once I figured that, I then realized that it wasn't that I am the only likely person. In fact, since that prognosis, so many people I know have died who are my friends who have not died of cancer. So once I figured that that was the case for me, I put in all my effort on the fight. After all, as they say, death comes to us all eventually. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe like maybe the part that working with patients, or going to see patients, or hearing their stories, and also their kind of what their sufferings. The biggest part is, how do you pass this information to your family? Maybe you can tell us in terms of how you communicate the same, maybe to your wife, to your kids. Do you even start planning how your death will look like, where you will be buried, who will attend the burial? How do you pass that communication to your family?
Okay, you don't pass the communication of death. Well, I did personally. After going through a process where I thought perhaps yes, I might die, and realizing that I needed to fight for it, I didn't bother myself too much with thinking about the death. But what bothered me was how to, of course, break the news. My wife had been with me when we got the cancer diagnosis. For my mother, we had to drive all the way to Tarbo to go and see her, to tell her what had happened and to assure her. And I had to do that in person so that she knows that it was going to be okay. Yeah. For my children, because then they were 16. Then they were 16, 8, and 3 years old. Each child got the how do I put it? Each child got their own dose according to their understanding.
Yeah.
For the 16-year-old, of course, she knows about cancer. She can read about it. She's on the internet. It was much. I would give a lot more information than I would say the 8-year-old. And of course, for the 3-year-old, you have to put your kitu.
Yeah.
The amount of.
Levi?
You have to package it according to the persons known to you, and package it according to their understanding at their age. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So anyway, that's interesting. I think I saw someone by Rotich who is saying you are his childhood friend.
Yeah, I am. A big hi, Rotich. Good to see that you're there, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you tuning in.
Great. Yeah, so I want to say, if you want to join the conversation, I've pinned the link. You can actually come and ask Levi any question, or actually maybe share your perspective with him. Today we are just maybe having a conversation about what patients go through, maybe from a patient point of view and someone who has passed through the journey of cancer. We are lost to Levi, but I hope he'll come back. Yeah, so someone who has gone through that journey of cancer, and I think I have some friends who have gone through this, and some who have family, so you can actually join and we can be able to discuss this tonight. So I'll try to get Levi back. Sorry, lost you.
Yes. Yeah, we lost the connection a bit there.
Sure. All right, so maybe the other part I want to get is in terms of, because I see this a lot online, even patients, even some patients we support, like maybe those that you hear about and their journey with cancer, and people make fundraisings. Can you tell us, how did you raise your finances especially to treat your condition?
I must say at this point that I'm very grateful for the support I got from a lot of friends and family. Once I decided personally, first of all, I decided to go public about it. So I got on Facebook, I told people that this was what was happening. And at that time, initially, I didn't initially start with asking for a donation because when this initially started, I had some insurance. So I used it to go through my first surgery. Unfortunately, there was a complication with that, so I had to have a second surgery, which then resulted in me having to ask for funds. And I wasn't too sure that I would be able to get the support that I needed financially. But I had a lot of good friends who made it their business to really rally people to support me. And I can say I really appreciate and thank God that I went through the entire process without, lacking funds at any point of stage. And people were generous and people were graceful. And I really thank God for that.
Great. Yeah. Now, maybe going forward, especially on if you talk about the insurance part, was your insurance had the package for that kind? But anyway, I know many insurance don't cover cancer.
They don't cover cancer.
What would you say maybe going forward?
It's difficult to find any insurance that will cover cancer. I saw one, but the amount of premium you pay is really pretty stiff. Huh? And one of the reasons why they do that is because they are under the impression that anybody who gets cancer, the chances of them surviving is very low. So they would not want to touch it at all. Yeah. The same way they are doing with COVID-19 right now. So I don't know what I could say about it. My hope and wish would really be that we could find ways to be able to make cancer treatment not so punitive, so that even those who are not able to have friends who can even support them can be able to get treatment. I met a lot of people from the slums, from very poor backgrounds, who were cancer patients who had to drop out somewhere halfway because they could not finish the chemo because they lacked funds, or they could not go through with the operations that they needed because they lacked funds. So we have a lot of people dying, not just because the disease is bad, but because they do have the disease but are unable to get treatment. Yeah.
Yeah. So especially where you are talking about, they have the disease, they lack funds, and maybe yes. Maybe when we do diagnosis, many Kenyans aware about maybe doing the screenings, even the annual screenings that are done, maybe especially for men, because men are the most people who don't take screenings.
Yeah. You could see from my story, even me, it took a long time for me to actually even go to hospital. Men generally don't want to go to hospital for anything anyway. Many of us, if you have a toothache, you take something for it, a painkiller or something. When it gets too bad is when you run to the dentist. The same thing applies with many of the things we have. If you have a rash, you want to pack a Vaseline and a herb somewhere and you hope it will go away. But, for many of the people, when it comes to issues of stigma,
yeah,
the issues surrounding being able to access cancer treatment in terms of the screening, there has been a lot of campaign about screening. People are aware. And I always say, screening is not the issue. The issue is, so you get screened and then you discover you have cancer. Alafu. A lot of guys are saying, stop going because they realize even if I have this disease, I don't have the wherewithal to be able to fight it. So the way they say, I'd rather not know, wacha inikute mbele. Because after ikinikuta sahi, I can only worry. There's nothing really I can do about it. And that, again, comes back to the problem of accessibility of medical facilities, as well as accessibility of treatment and affordability of the same.
Yeah. Right. So this is more into accessibility. But anyway, looking at the whole, maybe again, if we talk about screening, people are aware about screening, but are they taking those screenings?
Some are, but not as it's not as great as it should be. Absolutely not. There was a men's screening some time back at the Mater Hospital. I was there. and they were doing prostate cancer screening. Men came, they heard about it, and when they were told to take the test and realized what would be involved in doing the test, watu walienda tu kwa magari wakaondoka. There's also the fear of some of the measures taken to do those kind of screenings. For example, the testing for prostate cancer is very intrusive, and many men would rather not. They would rather stay away from it because of they're shy, or they feel a certain kind of way about how some of that testing is done. Yet, the human body, inafika wakati, there is nothing to be ashamed of about anything. You know, when you are really sick, even all those things you're afraid of people seeing, people will see because you're sick.
Yeah. True. So people need to take those screenings, and men need to take this very serious, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. So especially now, also Levi, going to how you manage your pain, maybe can you tell us in terms of having the right support groups in different, especially in the cancer issues? Do you see those support groups helping you to manage your pain and also improve outcomes as well as quality of life? How does that operated on yourself as well as maybe other patients?
Okay. In terms of support groups, I would say yes and no. Yes, because some of the information you get from support groups, once you enter into social media, you get into some of those WhatsApp groups and you go for some of those meetings. Some of the information you get about treatment, about doctors, about where to go for which kind of medicine and that kind of thing is very helpful. Because some people have gone through cancer before, they know some of the issues concerned with it, they can give you information of what to get where at this cheaper rate and that kind of thing, and that's very useful. However, there's a downside to it, and the downside is that there is a lot of deaths in the support groups, which can be very, very discouraging. Every now and then, especially one support group I was in, every week somebody was dying or somebody was entering into that final stage. And it's not good for a patient, if you're a patient in a support group, looking at that magnitude of death around you all the time, and yet you are supposed to be having hope and life. It depresses some. And with cancer, depression is not a plus when you're getting treatment, it's a minus. You really need a strong mind, as well as the treatment they're giving you. Your mind must be super strong to be able to take you into the difficult times of cancer chemo treatment. Otherwise, if you have a weak mind and you get a lot of negativity and you're always thinking about death, like you first asked, and people around you are always dying, there's a good chance you will go down. Doctors will tell you that, whether they are Christian or not. Even Hindu doctors said, you have to have a strong mind. They do say that there is a role for positivity in cancer treatment, and it's definitely very impactful and can be seen.
Wow. So maybe as someone who maybe took some local treatment, and I saw you did your last chemo. Did you also maybe other treatment abroad? Yeah? Can you share with that? Can you share with us in terms of how can we, from a patient point of view, how can we actually strengthen our healthcare systems to be able to do all these treatment schemes, even locally?
Well, I think one of the biggest things with the treatment schemes and what sent me abroad was something called the PET scan. Now, people have talked about it for years, and yes, it is here in Kenya. The Aga Khan Hospital has it. Unfortunately, by the time I was going to India myself, what had happened was I had finished my treatment. I had been, off any kind of medication for about 6 months by that time. And then I'd gone on a routine check and discovered that there was a possibility that there might have been a return of the same cancer, which then led me to saying, let me go abroad. And the reason why I was going abroad was so that I could do an extensive examination through the PET scan, which was, is a whole body scan to check for any cancer viruses in your body. Now, as I said, at the time, there was one in Aga Khan. Unfortunately, there were 2 lines of references. One, I went there myself and I was told that I would be put on a list that would take up to 3 months to be able to get into it. And then eventually the thing was even not working. So that's what ended up sending people like me and others out of the country to be able to go and get, this PET scan treatment. And the surprising thing is that even with going out of the country, especially to a place like India, the treatment was a lot more cheaper than here. So it comes back again to affordability. In Kenya, we are really crippling cancer patients with the cost of cancer, and it is just it's just a heavy weight to bear for somebody who is a patient, for the caregivers, the people around them to do. And that's why you see a lot of people end up going to India. It's not so much that the cancer doctors here cannot treat. It is a lot more to do with how much it costs than anything else.
Yeah. So actually, it's the same treatment, and especially when it comes to expertise from doctors, you almost get the same even in India, but maybe the cost might be the variance.
Yes, the cost is the variance. And then in terms of expertise, I'm glad you've pointed that out. There's a little bit of a discrepancy in that, you see, there are some, for you to see a specialist in Kenya, for example, if I told you to go to any specialist today, you pay maybe about 3,500 to 5,000 shillings for a consultation. And there's a good chance you would see him for about 3 minutes, because you would go there and there'll be like 20 other people wanting to see the same specialist. They've been sent there by other different doctors. So he doesn't really have time to listen to you because he's busy. He's been seeing 20 other patients a day. So you get in, he reads your chart, he tells you what it is, boom, you're out.
Yeah.
In India, it's the difference with the Indian doctors was how much time they allocated to a patient. Like if you went to see a doctor, he would really sit down and go through your issues with you. Another thing they would take is your case study, right all the way back. In fact, I had to go with all my charts and medical paperwork from Kenya for the Indian doctors to go through in the beginning, before we even had a discussion with them about what they were going to do and how they were going to do it. So there is some thoroughness there that is lacking also in our healthcare system, as well as the cost. Even those particular health professionals that I saw, the cost was a fraction. Is what I think it was equivalent to about 1,000 Kenya shillings to see one, and for a longer period than one here in Kenya. So again, we are still hit. The truth of the matter is, getting sick in Kenya is an activity, if I may put it that way, for the rich. Like if you are a person who is not able to have any money and you can somehow avoid getting sick, you should, by low costs. Yeah.
So maybe from what I'm getting you now is, for us to be able, maybe as we think of universal healthcare coverage, we should actually increase the number of specialists in the country. That's what you are.
Not only should we increase them, we should make them accessible. The person in my village where I come from should be able to access that specialist just the way a CEO somewhere in Nairobi would have. And be able to actually afford to do that. Yeah. Otherwise, we will only be seeing, certain kinds of people, and a lot of people will fall into the cracks, and the cancer number will grow, and we'll keep on saying it's finishing people, when in effect, the people it's finishing the most are the ones without access. Yeah.
So these are the poor people, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, maybe can you tell me, in terms of people who are close to death, what are the most what is the most comforting things from us we can do to those people? How can we improve their quality of life? Levi?
Well, in terms of how I don't know, can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Yeah. In terms of improving their quality of life, one of the most important things is just to be there. A lot of people think that there is something you can say or do right, or, by the time somebody is being told that they're terminally ill and they're going, they already know that. The only thing you can really give them is your presence and your assurance that you are not going anywhere. And your ability to be able to not talk too much, but to listen to what they are saying, because they are the ones living. They will probably have things they need to say, or things they need to instruct, or people they would want to see. It would be good for somebody to be that kind of person, to be able to be that last, confident counselor, friend for the person who is, terminally ill. It would be the most important thing, because in that moment in time, searching for words or things that you think are right to say would not always, cut it. Yeah, that's what I can say. Just be there.
Yeah. Okay. So this is more into family then. It seems this sickness scheme is more to, it comes and boils down to family responsibility. If you're talking about being there, and also you talked about maybe support groups, they might not do a lot, but so this is more to family now. Maybe
Absolutely. Absolutely, it's a people that are closest to you, family, and no matter who they are, whether you're single and it's your brothers and sisters and parents, or you're married and it's your spouse and your children. It's your family that is the closest people around you. That the guys who you will need if you go home and you need help, if you cannot even bathe yourself, and you don't get to the bathroom. It's family who comes out to help you, those kind of things. So it should be important for them to be the real pillar around you that you can rely on up to the very end. Do remember, Patrick, that people, even in the point of death, when the doctors are saying this person is really going, who do they call? They call the family. They say, where is his family? Wacha family yake wakuje karibu na yeye, so that people can go in peace and go amongst people they know, amongst their family members. So family plays a key role, especially around a cancer patient. They can break or make them, depending on all the things that they do. Yeah.
Great. So maybe I would want to ask you this question. So in terms of yourself and also maybe many cancer patients you have interacted with, and you have said about your wishes, if we can increase the number of specialists as well as increase the accessibility. Now, is there any other wish that you feel they usually have that we, the wider community, or even the wider citizens, we don't know?
Yeah, I wish cancer could be declared a national disaster. And this is why. You see, the last time HIV was declared a national disaster, resources were poured in to combat issues to do with HIV. And as a result, we saw that the prevalence rate for HIV went down. In fact, nowadays, you are hard pressed to say that, it is, numbers of, HIV patients are going up. You will tell me, even you yourself, you have noticed, they're not the way they used to be in the 90s, right? Yeah. Because focus was put there. There has been a reluctance to do the same for cancer patients, and I do not know why. Because and I think in my own suspicions, because cancer is a big business industry, when you get cancer, it's millions of shillings. I tend to think that the powers that be, people in the places that can make a difference, either are part of the problem in terms of the legislation they put, because somehow government benefits from cancer patients, or they just don't care. Because the truth of the matter is, if we made it a national disaster and we actually poured resources into helping it, we would help even the poor people, and less people would die of cancer. Just think about it this way. If you go to the US, there are a lot of cancer patients in the US, and mortality rate is high, yes, depending on which cancer you are having. But the people who get well after having cancer are millions. Millions. Over 60% of people who get cancer in the US will get healed. As opposed to here, here where we say it's a death sentence, even how we are talking even right now, it looks like, oh my goodness, the people who stay alive, they look like they are few, or they are special, or they are something. This is an illness everybody can beat, especially if they get it early. This is an illness with where the mortality rates can be kept low if we are serious about it, or low or quite minute. You would have to have some really crazy cancer for you to die. If you have like prostate, for example, or you have like colon cancer, those are cancers you're supposed to live from, especially when you get them at the first stage. Even lung cancer or liver. I mean, guys have gone through these things, but the problem is in Kenya, we haven't put that policy forward. So that's the first thing that they should be able to do, declare it a national disaster. And I think the other thing is to attach counselors to cancer patients. Not only is this disease detrimental to your pocket, it is also detrimental to your emotions and your mental health being. The way we do counseling when somebody gets HIV, we should do counseling when somebody gets cancer, because the situation is the same or maybe even worse. Because you see, unlike HIV, where you know that there's a possibility you might not die. In cancer, there is a real struggle in thinking that you will not die. For somebody to work with you, and then the chemos are grueling. It would be nice if we could attach, the hospitals even could attach counselors, not only to the patients, but also to the caregivers, because they are also undergoing stress during that period. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. So maybe your type of cancer, which you can maybe take some time to share about it if you are comfortable with. You finished your last chemo.
Yeah.
Maybe you can also tell us now how the kind of do you experience some bad side effects, or you actually managing it well and also doing it with your caregivers, which are doctors and those that you work with, you are able to manage all effects that come out of those chemos that you did.
Okay, when you're going through the chemos, of course, the effects are there, and they vary from one cycle to another. They also vary from one person to another. Not everybody gets the same kind of effects, and some people could get the same. Some people lose hair. I did it, for example. Some people, they get darker with skin. That happened to me. I got a dark tongue. I got a dark face. I got dark hands. All those kind of things. I even got neuropathy. There are very many different side effects you could get from chemo. You don't have to get all of them like the next person. And after cancer, some of them still stay, like neuropathy has still stayed for a while, although inaisha pole pole. Also, the other thing is I still have a dark tongue that is still there. Right now, I'm not taking anything for any side effects. At some point I was, but you see, it's been almost 2 years since my last chemo, which was in January of 2018. So I have been fine, personally. And there's nothing I am doing to manage it per se. What I am doing right now. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Mic check.
I can hear you, Levi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
I can be able to hear you, Levi.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm saying what I'm doing. Yeah. I said what
Sorry, seems I lost Levi. So Levi, can try to come back so that maybe we can finish this conversation. So Levi is sharing about his treatment journey with cancer. Sorry, right. I asked you. You can continue.
Yeah. So I'm saying right now I'm not on any treatment of any kind or any sort like that. So I'm actually okay. What I just have is reviews. I have another one in August. When you have had cancer before, every year or every 6 months, you go for a review just to check that you're still on the right path until 5 years pass. Yeah.
Yeah. So Atieno is asking how many cycles of chemos you took.
12 cycles of chemo, my friend.
12.
Yeah.
Yes. Atieno is saying he took 12. Sorry, again, I lost you. He said he took 12 cycles of chemo. So those are the total number of chemos. Let me try to get him back so that maybe we can finish this story. Sorry, I lost you, Levi.
Yeah, 12 cycles and about 33 radio.
Wow. That was, anyway. So maybe, Levi, you actually defeated cancer. Can you share with me? Yes. Now share, maybe you can share or tell someone who is actually having these cancers right now. Maybe you can tell them what you feel and maybe give them some hope.
Yeah, well, I actually work with a lot of cancer patients nowadays. People do inbox me and they tell me, I have got a friend who has cancer, or a brother or a sister or somebody, and every time they do, I reach out, I visit, I go see them. If they're in hospital, I walk the journey with them. If they're doing chemo, I go, and some of them, one of them I lost last year, which is really painful, but it has not stopped me from going and actually working with others. Many have won. There's a gentleman last week who just finished his 12 chemo. He's doing spectacularly well, and he's 57 years old. There's another guy who is in his 40s right now. He's on his 6th session. He's doing incredibly well. There's a lady who finished 2 years ago. She's also basically on her journey to being cancer-free, just like I am. What I can tell you guys is this: if you have cancer, for example, it's not a death sentence. Forget what the people normally try to think and put those ideas and stuff. It's not a death sentence. There is nothing you cannot come back from, provided you have a will in your mind. God will make the way. You have to have a will yourself. And once you have the will, one of my first suggestions I tell people is focus on the positives. If you're going to read any stories concerning cancer people, then read the positive ones, because there are so many people have actually bounced back from it. If you're going to watch any movies about it, watch the positive ones. If you're going to read any posts on the internet or social media, or talk to anybody who gives you any advice about cancer, you talk to the ones who can only tell you that things are going to get better, because the mind feeds on what it receives and it produces a result. It's just a fact. It feeds on it and it will produce a result. If you feed it negativity, it's going to give you negative vibes. If you feed positivity, it will start producing, you'll begin to feel like you're healing long before they even start the medicine on you. And then once you start the medical process, don't look back. People will come and they will say, oh, there's a herbalist I know, there's a preacher I know in Nigeria, there's a mganga in Tanzania, and you can do this and that. The other, focus on your treatments, nothing else. Don't get any sideshows. If you decide you're going to go the chemo way, go pursue that chemo way to the very end. Don't do it halfway either. Many people have done half chemo and come back to regret. Many people have gone through one regimen and then jumped out. So you really have to decide that the battle is going to be waged a certain way that you want, and then you're going to wage it. Then you surround yourselves with positive people. If you have anybody negative in your life or any negative into you, kick them out. Keep them out completely, because this battle is won in the mind long before it's won in the body.
Wow, amazing. So even Atieno is agreeing with you, and she says cancer is not a death sentence for sure. But anyway, maybe I'm also interested about kind of support that patients receive from different organizations. Did you, or even not even from a fundraising perspective, do you get support from different organizations? Sorry, I lost Levi again, so hope he will come back and then we'll be able to finish this discussion. We'll try to get him back. So, Levi, I'm sorry, we keep losing you.
I'm in the village, so I keep getting kicked out.
Yeah, sorry, it's okay. So maybe
because it was meant to be this way, maybe it wants to be back in Nairobi.
Yeah, no problem. So maybe Levi, we want to understand, because cancer nowadays, if we go to Kenyatta or different hospitals, we have so many patients who are maybe seeking treatment as well as different support to be able to afford this care. Maybe I want to know, in terms of organizations which come up to support cancer patients, what do you have to say to them, or those who are thinking about supporting cancer patients, which area they should focus on?
Again, the same areas. Even the organizations coming up to support cancer patients, they know. But I will tell them the same things. It is access to treatment that is the most critical issue, and access to affordable treatment for everybody, from the guy who lives in Runda to the one who lives in Kibera, from the one in Kileleshwa to the one who is in Korogosho, and even to the one who is in Turkana. They should all be able to access treatment once they are, diagnosed with cancer. Nobody should be left out, because the issues with cancer are also surrounding time. It's a time-constrained disease. The faster you get it, the diagnosis, that is, the faster you get treatment, and the faster you begin the process of getting a healing. And because of the time constraint of it, we should be able to be able to make sure that a cancer patient does not stop somewhere along the way because of lack of finances. That is the very first thing. Secondly, there's an issue with the lack of accessibility to good treatment. The guy in Turkana, for example, can't get the same kind of treatment as somebody would get in Nairobi, which is really sad. We have county hospitals and county governments, they're trying to do their things, and we appreciate some of the things they're doing, yes. But more needs to be done. Because as we can see in this country, this disease is hitting everybody, and even people in the village are getting it. And it's important for us to be able to make sure that they can be able to go for chemos even there without having to necessarily travel long distances to get such kind of things. Once we start there, the other things can follow, so that we can reduce the issues of having to do Harambes, for example, to get cancer, because all of us will be able to access the treatment. I don't see anybody doing an Harambe to treat HIV anymore. They're not there. It's the same thing we should do for cancer. If we make it a national disaster, and government pours in resources, then people will be able to get treatment, and more people will live. And life is what we are really after, because there is no life lost to this disease that is worth it. Not at all.
Not at all. Great. So Atieno is asking on your case, did you do a surgery or radiation or just chemo?
Oh, I did a surgery first. I did a surgery to remove the tumor in my colon before I started the chemo. Actually, 2 surgeries. The first one didn't go very well. There was some complication about it, and after about a week, I had to do basically the same surgery just to clean up what had happened with the first one. But after that, I then began the chemo.
Yeah, and also she's saying she just joined us, so she might have missed some part, but she's interested to get. Were you just did you go to screening to be able to get this cancer, or you had some symptoms?
No. Thank you for the question. If you just joined us in the beginning, I just said I didn't go for any screening. Really, this thing just caught me by surprise. Nilianza na issues to do with diarrhea. It was H. pylori I was having in my stomach. It was food poisoning. I wasn't really grasping getting what it was. So I kept getting treatment for one thing, and then it would recur. And after a while, something else started. I started getting dizziness, and this dizziness began persisting. Having a headache, and I was having these stomach cramps at night, and I would be dizzy the entire day. Like I'm walking and I feel like I'm about to fall. So an incident happened in my office where I, basically semi-collapsed in my chair. That led me to go into hospital, and then that led me discovering that I had a low HB, and I was put on blood transfusions, and eventually then the process began to find out why it is I was bleeding. Before the tumor was discovered about a week later, and then of course it was then found to be cancerous, and that is how I began my cancer treatment.
Great. Thank you for that. So maybe Levi, I'll because I'm sorry that we have to get to the end of this session. Maybe you can
absolutely.
Share just your last word that you have, maybe to doctors that actually really work very hard to take care of cancer patients, and also to patients, and also to those who support patients, even through their support, giving their money, small amount of money, and even big organizations that put their funds to this care.
Right. So I'll just say thank you to all the organizations who want to put their funds to help cancer patients. We really appreciate you. You are the guys who are the biggest voices in the fight against cancer. Special thanks to the doctors as well who battle this disease every day, who talk with patients and work with them and give them, that care that they need when they need it. And especially to those doctors who actually go out of their way to be counselors as well as doctors, to be friends to their patients and to be able to even guide them along the way. To the nurses.
Sorry, Levi, again you froze. I'm sorry, Levi, again, I think I lost him. So hoping for him to finish his story. So Levi was sharing about his journey with cancer and winning the cancer battle, and he was sharing about the treatment and his experience. So we are getting to the end of the session, and he was giving his last word, and we'll be able to finish. So I'm hoping to get Levi back. Sorry, Levi, are you there? Levi? Right, so I think I lost him. So again, I'll get to the end of this session, which was about Levi's story, just sharing briefly about his journey. So we'll say good night, everyone, until I see you again for the next session. And also, I want to, maybe Levi's back. I'll let him finish. I'm sorry. Levi, I'm sorry. Seems our network today was failing. Just finish and then we'll finish.
Yeah. So I was saying, to the nurses who are really the main caregivers in the hospitals, kudos to you and to the great work that you do. Nurses are really appreciated, and we do appreciate you. To the caregivers at home, those people who work with the cancer patients, please do not give up on them, even when it seems that they're giving up. Be the person who can give a positive word, be the person who can work with them, be the person who is their friend. And to the patients, if you've been diagnosed with cancer or going through cancer at this moment in time, I just want to assure you that God is there and He's able, and you to do your part by having the willpower inside your heart and your life to live, to fight for living, because people do live, because it's real people like me and you who will get cancer, and it's real people like me and you who beat cancer, and you can do it.
Thank you very much, Levi, for sharing your story. This should be the story to even encourage others who are going through the same, to be able to have some courage and find brilliance and hope in fighting the battle. Asante sana. Good night.
Thank you. Good night, man.
Great. Good night, everyone. So I want
Wow. Okay. Natamani kujua what your plot is. Ata landlord upena notice. Kimaulana, ingilia kati. This is expensive but worth it. Kwa nini uliamua kutango there? There are